A little birdie told me it's somebody's birthday this week.
Wait, you needed a birdie to tell you that?
Well, I had to get a reminder by small animals. But I got you something that I know you'll love.
Oh, really?
You've loved them all in the past, and so I got you the latest BioWare game, Anthem.
Very funny, smart Alec. No, seriously, what did you get me?
The Gaming Lovers Podcast with Brendo and Jem.
G'day and welcome to episode 45 of the Gaming Lovers Podcast. I'm Jem.
I'm Brendo. We're the Gaming Lovers. We've been playing a heck of a lot of games this week.
So many.
One heck, just a one metric heck load of games. It's been a good week for gaming. It's been an interesting week on the entire scope of the gaming landscape.
A lot of big news as well. Sad news with Reggie saying goodbye to Nintendo. We're going to miss poor Reggie. But we do have Bowser filling his shoes. More on that soon here on the Gaming Lovers Podcast.
That's an interesting thing. I didn't think I'd hear that as a little news teaser.
I know. I just love that his surname's Bowser. I think that's so amazing. Also, Anthem from BioWare has finally fully released after weeks and weeks of demos, and it is not looking good. Gee, I wonder who predicted that.
Now, you said before we recorded you were going to be polite and humble and generous.
I changed my mind. You know what? There is some smug satisfaction in knowing that I called it. I don't want to be right in that way. But
you have the biggest grin on your face. You want to be right on this
Vindication! Okay, we will get to that a little later on in this episode because we had a tweet from our good mate Narcus in the UK, and he mentioned that games of this nature often get better over time, and that made us think, well, let's look at some of the games that are similar to Anthem that had really rocky starts.
Really rocky starts,
and managed to get better over the course of a year or two. So that is what we're going to be talking about later on in this episode of the Gaming Lovers Podcast.
Games recovering from the brink of disaster.
Yes. So there is hope for Anthem yet. In the meantime, there has been so much going on with 4 and Feb as it's like days left. The pressure is on. Let's get to gaming goals.
Give me goals.
It gets like more ridiculous every week.
Well, that's why we're podcasters and not professional beatboxers. But that's neither here nor there. Should I begin with my gaming goals adventures for the week?
Yes, let us know how you've gone, because last week you were at 0.
A fat, big ol' 0 in my 4 in Feb. For those not in the loop, every February I myself and my lovely wife here attempt to pick 4 games that have been staying on our backlog, games we've wanted to play, but they've always been bumped back in the priorities list. And so we decide the 4 weeks of February, play 4 games, and that way we can say we've done them. My progress as we reach the tail end of February was sitting at a big fat 0 last week, but I have some good news, everyone!
Thanks, Professor.
I completed not only Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, but also Oxenfree.
2 games!
2 games. It helps that one of them was short, but it was longer than I expected. I'll start with Kingdom Hearts because that's where I've been giving updates every week about. I did finish it. The end made as much sense as I hoped that it would. I had many questions, particularly about Ventus and his existence, I suppose, where he fits into the grand scheme of things in the convoluted and complex Kingdom Hearts lore. And although I did have to look at a couple of forum posts about what it actually meant in the ending, then I made sense of it and I'm satisfied and happy and am one step closer to getting towards to play Kingdom Hearts 3 at long last.
Yay!
I only have like 4 other games to play. I was very happy. I did complain a lot last episode that Aqua was so weak to play as, particularly at the start. The good news is, one morning when I had very little sleep, I decided to wake up and just grind RPG style for an hour or 2, level her up, get some stronger abilities, and then by the end, I was just melting enemies with electricity and fire and all that sort of fun.
That's why mages are so fun. I mean, it's hard at first, But once you get to the end, you just feel so badass. You're like, yes, power.
Now, I'm the sort of person who does not watch many trailers. If there's something that I know I'm going to enjoy, I stay clear of it. I don't look at posters, I don't look at artworks, I don't look at trailers, I don't look at any details about the game because I don't want it influencing my expectations or things like that. I didn't even realise that the 3 characters from Birth by Sleep are actually on the cover of Kingdom Hearts 3. I thought this was just a prequel that set up some events and then the rest of the series moves on without them. I didn't realise they were actually still integral to the plot. That's kind of cool.
Yay!
So I have not wasted my time playing Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep because it's important. Thumbs up. Overall, I did enjoy it. It was probably the weakest Kingdom Hearts game I've played, and I've played everything up to this point in release order. But I still had a decent enough time with it. It's something I love to play series in their entirety. So to tick off a considerably large checkbox in the Kingdom Hearts checklist, I'm happy with that, and I finally got to it after many, many years. This was a PS3 re-release of the PSP game and has since got a PS4 release, so that should tell you just how long Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep has been around. But now I've finally done it. Pat me on the back.
Okay, there you go.
Excellent. I feel accomplished. And the other game I played a lot of recently, more than I expected, was Oxenfree. It's a creepy-ish, you're on an island. It's always on an island, isn't it? What is it with me in playing games where you're on an island? You and your friends go to an island to have a beach bash, as you do when you're teenagers. Things don't go as smoothly as you would expect, and suddenly there's all sorts of Scooby-Doo hijinks going on, and I loved every second of it. One thing I must absolutely praise Oxenfree on is its character development. The game, I guess, lasted for my playthrough about 6 hours, and that was a longer playthrough than what was advertised on howlongtobeat.com, because I did not want the game to end, and so I was doing optional things. That's normally a good thing when you're enjoying a game, but when you have a 4 in Feb deadline, I may have made a mistake or two in extending my playtime for that.
Yep.
In that 6 hours, there is 5-ish main characters. I feel like I know all of them. I know their likes and dislikes. I know their personality quirks. I know who gets along well with who. To get that much across in a game where they're not all on screen at the same time, that's good writing and excellent performances. This game, you can't see facial expressions. Characters look like they're cut out of cardboard sometimes and are far away enough. You can't see enough detail. So all of the emotion is expressed in voice alone, essentially. That's incredible when I think of how much personality comes out of these characters over the span of that game. Top stuff. I may have fluked my way to one of the best possible endings, which is always nice.
Nice.
I had a game plan going in and I sort of stuck with it, tried my best to do things how I thought was going to be good, and unlike many times when I do that, it actually worked for a change. So Oxenfree I had a good time with. It's a game I do want to play again, not only for achievements, but because there are some branching things, and I'm very curious as to what some of the alternatives are, or maybe some of the other endings look like. Super cool. I highly recommend it. And although it is a bit spooky, I would recommend you play it too, my dear, because it's not a quote-unquote horror game. It's more just a character-based interactive narrative choice game.
Is it more of like a thriller where it's a bit more jumpy, less gory, more jumpy?
I didn't actually jump at any of the quote-unquote jump scares, if there even can be called that. Like, occasionally you'll be midway through a conversation and the lights will blow out. You know, that's about it. Nothing made me jump. I've just come off playing Resident Evil 2, don't forget, so maybe my jump-o-meter's been skewed.
Possibly.
But it's pretty good. There's no real combat or anything like that, which is always helpful in those sort of games.
Would you say it's kind of like Gone Home?
Yeah, it is more like Gone Home. It's more about the...
Eerie.
It's more about the building the characters in an eerie environment. Yeah, I'd say it is more that. It's not real like shooting monsters or anything like that.
Okay.
It's a bit different, and I greatly enjoyed it. Top stuff to Night School, I believe the developer is. I very much enjoyed Oxenfree, which means I have 2 games left to go in my 4 in Feb with like 72 hours remaining. This is like real-life Majora's Mask. I have a 72-hour time limit to get through 2 games. Will I do it? I don't know. We'll talk more about that at the tail end.
We'll keep this episode short so you got more time to game.
I could bring my DS and play Pokemon Moon right now.
Maybe not.
But I might be a bit distracted, so I won't do that. How's your 4 in Feb been going? Give us an update on where you stand and what you've done in this past week.
Well, I finished 2 games kind of early in the month, and I have got the beefier ones still to finish. So at the moment, I'm currently juggling God of War and Period Cube. And God of War is what I've been focusing on the most this past week. This past week, though, was like chockers. We had a wedding. We were like...
Chockers.
We were doing a working bee and doing lots of painting and stuff. Like chock full.
I understand.
Sorry for those who... I use Aussie slang and then I realised maybe I should explain what I'm saying. Yeah, I think I'm kind of close to endgame in God of War.
Famous last words. We've heard that a few times over the course of this podcast.
And there's famous last words. But I feel like part of me wants to go and just enjoy the richness of this world and explore more. And another part of me feels that urgency of 4 in Feb. And that's what I'm kind of regretting picking a game that I want to take my time with. Mm-hmm. Because I'm like, no, I got to get it done. And yet I'm like, oh, I got to finish it. But I don't want to. I just want to enjoy this and take my time exploring. It's been so much fun being out on the boat and just listening to them tell these stories and as they explore.
That is what is incredible about God of War. The times where normally you would have a loading screen or you're going from A to B. That's like the most boring time in video games. With Oxenfree, I loved it all except for the backtracking where there was no conversations going on because I was just walking to a location that I've already visited. In God of War, that never happens because if you're going somewhere you've already visited, you're going to have conversations going.
Yeah.
And that's quite possibly one of my favourite things about God of War.
Yeah. And it, even in the where there's like these little cavern kind of very linear-esque get from point A to point B in the boat, but they'll still have very deliberate like conversations or stories, like lore building stories that, you know, they're not crucial, but they still help flesh out this world.
Yeah, you pay more attention to the little bits and pieces told in those, and the world, you will notice more things in it that line up.
But it helps feel that, because you can tell, like, it's one of those things that you can tell it is a loading screen because it's very simple in that sense, and you can tell it's getting ready to build that next section that you're traveling to, but it never feels like a loading screen, and that's why like it's been so hard for me to remember to save, because I'm like everything just flows from one scene into another, and I'm like, oh wait, it's a good thing that there's auto saves right before this boss fight that just started that I didn't realize, and I haven't saved in like 3 hours, whoops. Had a few moments like that, but it does have really good checkpoints in that game, because there's been once or twice when I've died in like stupid Valkyries, those kind of boss fights, and you know it's got very good auto saves like right before you walk into those big scary fights.
Something that's overlooked a lot of times by certain developers, just the correct placement of auto saves or checkpoints.
You don't want. I mean, like old school games, that was the punishment. You died, you go back to the beginning, and that's what we grew up on. But thankfully, more modern games are far kinder to us, which makes it easier to keep that momentum up. And if you realize like a new strategy on how to take on a boss, which I haven't, Valkyries have been my kryptonite.
Don't worry, they're everyone's kryptonite.
They're so hard, and I'm like, a part of me is like, maybe I'm just really underleveled still, and maybe I've wandered into like this super high level boss fight, and I'm not quite ready for it. But I don't know, I can't tell. Like in certain games, you'll see like the levels of like what you're fighting, and how that compares to yours, and you'll know if it's worth fighting. You don't really get that in God of War. You just this is what you're fighting. And everything else I've managed to squeak by, but Valkyries have just been, I'm like, I think I got to the point where I'm like, no, I really can't beat this. I'm going to come back and try it again later when I'm a bit stronger.
Yeah. Okay. I just got 3 quick little questions for you about God of War. Without spoilers, so nobody panic if you haven't got around to it yet. The mission where you're trying to find a chisel.
Done.
Yes. Were you awestruck by the scale of what you saw?
Oh my goodness. It was amazing. And part of me was like, because they were describing how to get this chisel. I'm trying to say it without being too spoilerish. But I'm like, I'm wondering, how am I supposed to get that? Am I going to have to go into this, I'll call it a structure? Even though it's not. And I'm like, part of me like, is this going to get really gross?
That's it. That's all I needed to know. Secondly, if you had to spend a date out with either Brock or Sindri, who would you pick and why?
Oh my word. I don't know. Both of them would be far too...
Can you just explain the differences?
Brock is like hilarious because the way he uses swear words is it's not organic. It makes me laugh because they just sound so weird. And then Sindri is such a germaphobe. I think that would drive me nuts. I have fun teasing people that are like that. So it'd probably drive him bonkers. I don't know. I can't choose.
Sitting on the fence.
Maybe Brock. I don't know.
Good. That's all.
Purely for the laughs.
Purely for the laughs. You want a man who can make you laugh.
Exactly.
And thirdly, as a voice actress in your spare time, no, that's your job. This is what you do in your spare time. You don't work full-time on a podcast? Perhaps. Some people do. But could you please give us your best impersonation of the world snake's voice?
I can't even remember it off the top of my head.
The people want to hear it.
Right, wish me luck.
All right, hang on. Let me grab this cup. Now, I'm not D. Bradley Baker. I'm so not as good at this sort of stuff, but here we go.
That was pretty good. That was impressive. That was impressive.
Nothing a little,
Plastic cup can't help with.
It gives you that echo kind of.
Well, that was absolutely terrifying noise to hear come out of my wife. But you are enjoying God of War. It's still living up to your expectations after all the Game of the Year awards that it picked up.
So much fun and, completely worthy of all the accolades that it's gotten. So I'm looking forward to finishing it and also, sad that it's coming to a close soon. So I will say this. It feels like a simulator of, dealing with a teenager.
That's just what everybody wants as they go to video games to escape reality.
Was it in, Yakuza, the most recent one? People have been joking that it's a simulator for dealing with a newborn.
Yep.
Well, God of War is, next level, one of the more difficult stages of parenting teenagers.
Oh, don't worry. I've picked up all of my life skills so far from video games, like lock picking and, charisma checks and things like that. So, maybe it'll help me get ready for kids one day. Using all of my video game skills. Walk up to the baby and push A. I mean, how hard is it to change a nappy?
Oh, dear. So it looks like as we stand, we're both at 2 for 2, each. So we've still got 2 to go.
Our reverse strategies.
Yes.
I started with the big games, worked towards the shorter ones. You started with the shorter ones, worked towards the big games.
Yes, but at least mostly my big games are close to the end. So I can see that finish line. It just depends on how focused I can get. So the race is on.
So much pressure.
We'll see. You'll find out next week, next episode 46, whether we manage to succeed or not with our 4 and Feb challenge. Up next, we're going to talk more about the incredible My Body Is Ready, Reggie.
Share the love. Follow us on Twitter at Brendo Jem. That's BRENDOJEM.
Well, there will be a changing of the guard at Nintendo of America. Reggie, good old Reggie Fils-Aimé.
Mm-hmm.
How do you even say that
I'm
surname?
not sure. We never really hear him say his surname. He's always just say, "Hi, I'm Reggie."
Yeah, he's been known as Reggie.
Yeah.
I will address him as Reggie because I'm terrible at foreign-sounding names that aren't just like Johnson or Smith. But Reggie has been the president of Nintendo of America for over 15 years and has become a little bit of a pop culture icon in the gaming scene.
Yes.
He's a big man. He's very tall.
Very tall, very broad shoulders.
But he's always been a lot of fun ever since we first saw him at E3 2004.
2004, that's when he first made his appearance. He was hired in 2003 in Nintendo. You wouldn't know it at the time, but they were kind of struggling. They looked like they were being left behind by Xbox and PlayStation. The GameCube had been struggling, and with the PlayStation Portable just coming out, it looked like even the DS was in trouble. Like Nintendo was the king of handheld, like portable gaming, and Sony was kind of stepping on their territory.
Well, spoiler alert for how that ended. Outside of Japan, it didn't do much.
No. But it's interesting to look back in retrospect and see how they handled those things that looked like, big threats at the time. And with online streaming becoming a big thing around that time, E3 went from being, a conference just for reporters to something that fans could consume themselves, and memes would come from that. And Reggie played a huge part, being such a charismatic presenter, made a lot of history. So we wanted to reflect on some of his highlights, and he made a heck of an impact. Just his first ever appearance, he showed up and he said, and this is one that is quoted quite often, "My name is Reggie. I'm about kicking ass. I'm about taking names, and we're about making games." And from that moment, everyone's like, Nintendo just said ass.
What is happening? The mirror of illusion has been shattered. Reggie was definitely a proponent, or at least the figurehead for the Nintendo needs to grow up mentality. It had been riding on the admitted success of targeting the younger gaming demographic.
For sure.
But, I mean, look at the difference from the Nintendo 64 era to nowadays. Just the whole gaming scene has changed. And obviously with the average age of gamers getting older, they had to admit that, hey, Nintendo is not just for kids, guys.
It's interesting. They kind of acknowledged both sides of that. Reggie continued to say, "It's game time, a new day for me, a new day for Nintendo. So let's get a couple of things straight right off the bat. We're not going to run our company just for hardcore gamers. There are gamers out there who aren't as knowledgeable as you, gamers who aren't your age, gamers who don't have your tastes." I love that quote. I'm like, so many times there are like certain like bubbles of gamers that like if you don't play their type of games, they don't consider you gamers.
I despise them.
We at the Gaming Lovers podcast have always been very much any type of game, so long as you love games.
Yep.
Whether it be from mobile to PC to console, whether it's online MMOs or if it's RPGs or if it's, just casual, fun, family-friendly games, you are a gamer. And there's just different levels of that, and levels of intensity, I think, that come with it.
For sure. Not everyone's going to enjoy Dark Souls or Bloodborne, and not everyone's going to enjoy Pokemon Shuffle.
So Reggie came out, throwing punches pretty much, saying, look, we aren't going to change our MO of making games that are for people that are more casual gamers, because that's what they do really well. And they have succeeded in doing that really well for a long time since.
Yeah.
But they've also come out with other stuff, and I think they've found a really good balance, especially now with the Switch. My goodness, they've hit a sweet spot.
Yes.
So it's pretty incredible to look and see the impact that they've had. So that was Reggie's first big appearance at E3. The next year, he became a meme officially.
Well, that can only be a good thing for Mr. Reggie, because it would not be the last time.
It happened quite consistently throughout his career, and always at E3 seemingly. So at E3 2005, the Nintendo DS was outselling the Sony PlayStation Portable.
Mm-hmm.
And Reggie was asked about whether that had anything to do because the PlayStation Portable hadn't actually launched in Europe. It was specifically like America and Japan, but not, Australia. Australia's always counted as Europe.
Yes.
Which I always find really weird. Anyway.
We're one of the Queen's people.
Yeah, but so's Canada. Anyway, his response was, you know what? That's Sony's issue, not my problem. And so there is this meme, a picture of him just shrugging, hands up and with the words, not my problem. And to this
with
day...
With a smirk on his face.
Yes, a bit of a smirk.
Not my problem.
Not my problem. And it's still used. People still use that in conversation, as we do in our vernacular these days, as we'll respond with, a meme instead of actual words.
Yeah, it expresses a lot, and that's what I do love about memes, and it's certainly not the top of the tippy top cake for Mr. Reggie and his memedom.
No, I think the most iconic one, still to this day, from 2007, My Body Is Ready. The Nintendo Wii was being demonstrated at E3, especially the Wii Fit. Mm-hmm. You know, that cheap plastic board thing that everyone bought and then no one used?
You would be amazed how durable that thing is. It's designed to have large, heavy people on it.
Well, they had Reggie help demonstrate that at that E3. And as they were getting ready to weigh him to start off the demonstration, Reggie proclaimed proudly, "My body is ready." And everyone loved, and that became a meme. And to this day, we still quote it every year when E3 comes around. The cry of the fans is, "My body is ready!"
And thankfully, in his farewell video on Twitter at Nintendo of America, you can find that and watch it yourself, he does proclaim that, yes, his body is still ready.
Mm-hmm. And always will be. 2008, the Reginator was born.
Oh, dear.
The Reginator. Wii Sports was a huge hit around the world. And so when they were unveiling Wii Sports Resort,
which used the enhanced motion controls of the Wii Motion Plus, better responses, much better than the original Wii U remotes. Wii U remotes on the E3 stage.
They were playing one of the mini games. It was like a sword fight, and he turned over to Cammy, who he was fighting against in this live demonstration, and said, "And that's why they call me the Reginator."
Which I'm sure nobody had actually called him the Reginator prior to that point.
You never know. Maybe someone in Nintendo, like behind the scenes, did, and it was just more of an in-joke. But to that day, then it became a thing, and yet another meme was born, and that was forever his nickname, aside from, the whole "My body is ready." 2011, it was the first Nintendo Direct, can you believe? They feel like they've been around longer than that.
Yeah, it's, you realise that 2011 wasn't exactly a couple of years ago.
I know, it's been 8 years. Oh my goodness. Now I feel old. That's the year we got married. It doesn't feel that long ago. Okay, so that was Nintendo's first ever direct style presentation. Reggie was talking, straight to the camera, straight to the audience, asking, "You don't own a 3DS? What's wrong with you?" You know what that reminds me of?
Don't you guys have phones? But Reggie can get away with it.
Reggie does it in such a way. It's not an obtuse, "How come you're not buying what we're selling?" kind of comment. It was a cheeky, "Hey, what's wrong with you? Why don't you have this kind of..." And because Reggie says it, we love it.
Yeah.
And so again, another meme was born, and you'll see that still frame shot from the Nintendo Direct with the words, "What's wrong with you?" floating around the internet.
Perfect for message boards.
Absolutely. E3 2014, the Reginator comes alive. Taking that meme and that nickname from years past, they are very meta in a lot of their Nintendo Directs. They did a little skit.
Oh, what? Seriously?
Yes, in the video. I love the skits when they get silly from the puppets and stuff that they've done in the past. And in 2014, the Reginator had laser eyes just like Superman.
Well, it's not that. He was a enemy robot sent
Oh.
to steal plans from the Nintendo office. This is what happens behind the scenes in the gaming landscape. Don't you know there are spy robot doppelgangers infiltrating and stealing corporate secrets every day?
It's just fun seeing him, attacking his own co-workers and them being goofy together. I think that's one of the endearing things of Nintendo is them not, seeing them not take themselves so seriously, especially seeing, the heads, of the corporate body, not just America but Japan as well, all working together and being silly together is so refreshing, and it's nice to see them be so grounded and not so, I guess, stiff and formal, And I think that's one of the things that makes us love them even more.
Yeah, a bit of personality for a figurehead of a company always helps.
2015, I kind of mentioned this a little bit before, we got to meet the puppet Reggie.
Now, this was an incredible video.
I
When
loved it so
it launched,
much.
I had no idea what to expect, but it had all the heads of Nintendo's different companies, Japan, America, and Europe, all looking like puppets.
Yep, Shigeru Miyamoto, Satoru Iwata, and then Reggie doing push-ups, being the Reginator. So funny. And it makes us all just go, yep, that's how Reggie must start every day, in this perfect suit, but doing
Yeah.
push-ups like it's nothing.
Imagine the sweat stains on that suit. Do puppets sweat?
Then the goodbye video.
Oh. Yeah, it was a touching thing, full of all the memories that he's made. He thanked us for his smiles that we've given him as long as he's been around. He's been having great memories from the gaming public. And not only has he made us happy, we've also made him very happy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the most shocking turn of events
Yes.
is the corporate finanglings that a certain character has made behind the scenes without us knowing. His replacement is going to be Doug Bowser.
Mm-hmm.
Bowser has worked his way to the top of Nintendo. Mario's going to get fired. I think that's clear.
Literally with fire, not just fired, but burned.
Oh yeah, Nintendo of America's headquarters will be now surrounded by a moat of lava. 100%.
The Goombas marching everywhere.
Perfect.
Oh, so funny. I find that so perfect that the guy that's stepping up, his surname is Bowser. It's meant to be. Oh, we are so sad to say goodbye to Reggie. We're going to miss seeing him in those directs, and we hope that there'll be many memes to come from Bowser. I mean, there is already the most obvious one.
The internet has not taken its time as far as releasing photoshops of Bowser with Bowser, and
With
yeah.
Doug Bowser's head on Bowser's
It's
body.
almost too easy.
Yes,
But that's what's fun about the internet is that people always have weird creative ideas that work out.
absolutely. So thank you so much for everything, Reggie, and we look forward to seeing what happens next as far as the future of Nintendo and with Bowser at the helm.
Oh dear. The evil empire begins.
You're listening to the Gaming Lovers Podcast. Want to join the conversation? Visit thegaminglovers.com. Record your comment or question by clicking on the button on the right-hand side. And you could be featured in the next podcast.
Well, the big title launching in the past week was BioWare's Anthem. It finally arrived and it has not exactly set the world on fire. At the start of this year, we did a predictions episode where we had a calculated guess as far as what we thought certain big titles would succeed or which ones might not do so well. And let's just take us back to a quick little snippet of our expected review scores for Anthem. What review score do you anticipate? Average review score for Anthem, what will it be? Will it be below a 7?
Possibly. I'm imagining a 6.
Oof, somewhere
Yeah.
in the 6s. Well, I'm anticipating maybe low 7s. I don't think it will hit a home run.
Don't you hate it when you're right?
Well, I think I must have been a little bit generous. I didn't think I was being generous with a 7, but it seems not. Anthem's currently on GameRankings.com is not even at a 60. It's sitting just beneath at approximately 58%. That is out of the ordinary for a video game release. Things very rarely go beneath a 7.
Yeah, usually 7 means it's like mediocre for like video game like terminology. So if it dips below that, then you start to get worried. But we wanted to be kind because it's super easy to like, for a lack of a better term, crap all over this game.
And gloat that you were correct that it was going to...
I feel like we've done that enough. So let's try to be optimistic because there's been plenty of games that have bombed, flopped, failed to launch successfully.
Yes.
You know?
Now, Anthem's biggest problems, it seems, are the facts that, like we predicted, the story doesn't balance well with the online gameplay, where you get pushed along at someone else's pace. It was an issue you had a lot with the demos that you played. You miss out on a lot of the story banter that goes on behind the scenes. You're telling your teammates to shut their mouths for a second because I'm trying to hear what the AI is telling me in the game. You can't enjoy it at your own pace, which is something that is a core important thing in a BioWare game. And that doesn't feel that right. There's too little variation in the tasks that you actually do. The load times apparently are atrocious. There's just a plethora of issues that just make it... I mean, graphically it looks incredible, and if that's all we were rating it on, it would be exceptional.
One of the kindest things I've heard said about Anthem is that it feels like an Iron Man simulator. And that part is fun. From what I played in the demo, I quite enjoyed that aspect once I figured out how to do it. But, if there isn't enough variety until you get to the end, which is what most reviewers have said, is that you don't get the interesting enemies until end game. And the frustrating thing is the story stuff that you do solo, sometimes you'll resolve issues for, someone that's at the base in one of the missions, but then it's like they don't ever acknowledge it. So you'll have fixed something for someone, but they'll stay angry at you for the rest of the game. So that kind of stuff feels like they don't mesh well. Like they don't realize what's happening.
It takes away the impact of your choices, your actions, and feels like there's no real point in doing any of it.
Yeah, it's like what's the point of having the story at all if there's no real connect, if it feels disconnected and it's disjointed. So there's a few issues, and hopefully some of them will be resolved. Like Narcus tweeted us, these games are always a work in progress, and usually over the course of at least a year, improvements are made, things are added on, and it grows upon that foundation that's laid out. A part of me hates that system because I feel like if you release a game, it should be finished.
I do agree with that. With this sort of game, some of the problems, if it's on a technical side, like loading screens can be either sped up, or you could have something to actually look at, like in a BioWare game of previous years gone by with codex entries on loading screens. Skyrim does that. Other games where you have something to do during a loading screen can make all the difference, something to read about even.
Yeah.
It's not a big change, and it is something that has been requested on the Anthem subreddit. So hopefully just little fixes like that can help, but just as far as the core design choices, that's going to take... I don't even know if that can be reworked.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, Anthem does not seem to have done very well out of the gates, but there are a lot of cases in years gone by of games that did not set the world ablaze when they first launched that somehow recovered from the brink of disaster.
Let's have a look at those and take some solace and hope that this isn't going to spell the end for BioWare, hey?
Now, there is a theme in a lot of these games, and I'm sure you'll find it sooner rather than later. But let me take you back to when Half-Life 2 launched, and this is a game that you will find has exceptional review scores, is reviewed and given praise worldwide by every major publication or every game player that ever played it. However, it had one significant snag when it first launched, and that was that Steam had just arrived. Steam is a client platform that you can buy games off nowadays, that you can download. You have an account, you have friends. Wonderful. But this was one of the first cases that I can recall where you required an online, constant internet connection to even play a single-player offline game. Now, I didn't have exceptional internet. Basically, my entire childhood, young adult life, anytime I was living with my parents, they didn't have good internet. And the concept of being online to play an offline game was something that made a lot of players say, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to jump through these hoops. I will give Half-Life 2 a miss. And I'm fairly certain it impacted some of its sales.
Absolutely. Even today, there are plenty of gamers who don't like being told they have to be connected to the internet to play a game. You know, they'll avoid certain ones because they just want to be able to put in the disc, if that's what they have, and just play and enjoy the game. So I guess maybe that's probably more true for older gamers who are a bit more old school and be like, what is this and why do I have to be connected to the internet?
It's not even so much. Do you remember when the Xbox One was originally revealed and they said you will need to have your console online so it can detect if you are playing a legitimate game that you've bought without trading it in, because each game will be code locked to your console and you have to be online to play the game that you've just bought in a store that requires no multiplayer aspect, but you must have it online. And everyone said, oh, no,
yes.
we do not like that.
Especially in an age where people will lend their games to friends, and trade-in is quite a common thing, you know, especially if it's a short linear game and you can beat it quickly. You might want to go and then get something else. You might not want to play it again.
Yeah.
So that's the year that Sony came in and said, you can do that, that's okay.
Yay!
We won't do that, and then they became the heroes.
Yay! And Microsoft had to completely change their tone. But when Steam, nowadays, nobody cares that Steam is always online. When I turn on my laptop, it basically starts by itself, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool, and then I can just play my games or whatever. But when Half-Life 2 launched, that was so foreign to everybody's senses that they did not like it. And it's, even though the game itself reviewed well, people still had that, no, I don't like this. I don't want to play Half-Life 2 if I have to be online. It's ridiculous.
It's funny how when a new element is introduced as far as changing the whole landscape of gaming, really, we dig in our heels a bit. We're like, no, I don't want to. Don't make me.
Very resistant to change we are.
Yeah.
But there are other reasons why being online for a offline game can cause problems, and that's more on the technical side of things, because if the company's servers cannot keep up with the demand, you cannot play your single-player game. And that was the case with the famous Error 37 of Diablo 3. Blizzard servers on launch could not maintain stability with the amount of people that wanted to play this new game. Diablo has a massive following, and there was no shortage of fury at Error 37. Nobody knows what the other 36 were, but Error 37 became meme-worthy because it had that much vitriol thrown against it.
Yeah. When you buy a game and you can't play it because the servers are overloaded, you know, it becomes a coaster, you know, for your drinks. Useless. If you need that in order to play and it's not connecting, and it's like when they do the Click Frenzy kind of sales, or Black Friday sales, and all these websites can't handle the traffic and they just crash. And then people get angry because it's been promoted and it's a short window that they have to go and do their shopping, so they get mad that they haven't prepared adequately for that. The same when a new game launches and it's getting a lot of attention, and then they haven't prepared properly for the amount of gamers that are jumping on to play. So I'd like to think that companies now have learnt their lesson from this.
Yep. Let's not
Not
forget
always.
the Australian census that was, we'll make it all online so it can all be easier. And then the entire system was down for the whole period that it was supposed to be done. And then they're just like, I'll forget it.
Well, I think the census went for a month so that people could log on and do it.
It was supposed to be 3 days.
I know.
Ridiculous. But yeah, it's bad enough when you go to play a game that you've just bought, and your console has to update. So you sit and wait for that. And then now the game itself needs to update before I can play online. Never mind. At least if you jump through those hoops, it's done. You don't have to rely on any other factors. But when you try to play a game and you can't, and it's not your fault, that makes it so much more frustrating. But thankfully, since then, Diablo 3 has become quite a gem in people's eyes, and the servers, it seems, are a lot more stable. Either that, or there's just less people playing. But either way, people do love Diablo 3. They just didn't like it when it launched, for that very reason.
A very infamous game in this category of games that flopped hard, especially given the hype that was building up around it. No Man's Sky.
If ever a game was overhyped, it was No Man's Sky.
Thankfully, they have come a long way since it first launched. But man, this game, like, it sounded cool in concept, and then when people started playing it, they're like, this is really boring. Just this vast empty space, and it wasn't as exciting as they were making it out to be in their initial trailers and things like that. And there wasn't that much to discover on these worlds once you did discover the worlds in space and stuff. So the world itself was empty, and unfortunately it was not just a case of people's expectations being out of alignment, because the developers themselves during interviews hinted heavily or agreed when questioned that there would be a multiplayer aspect, that you could interact with other players. And the fact that the world is much more than a world, it's a universe basically that is infinitely large and procedurally generated, and the odds of you actually finding another character in that vast space was so slim, I guess they thought, forget it, no one will ever find it, the world's too big. But then an experiment was held where two players were able to find the exact same planet, get on the exact same spot, and could not interact at all, couldn't see each other. They weren't there. There were lies, you see. Lies told to us, people. And unfortunately, No Man's Sky certainly did not live up to the excessive amount of hype that it garnered. Yeah.
I think it was a little bit of a victim of its own interpretation from the audience of what they wanted, more than what the director and the project leads were working on.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's entirely their fault. But then a couple years later, No Man's Sky Next, which was an enormous update, which basically could have been released as a sequel. It had that much extra content. Multiplayer was fully implemented into the game, and so much was updated that the game is now, it's basically what No Man's Sky should have been when it launched.
Yeah.
And if it had have launched in this state, everyone would have been celebrating in the streets of a planet in the far reaches of the galaxy.
It's just one of those sad things, though, is I feel like there's a number of things that work against it. The pressure of trying to get a game out by a promised release date, for one. But so many games and developers these days feel like they can release things partially done, like half-baked, and then go, we'll fix it later, and that'll be okay. Like, we've gotten to this state now, and I don't like it.
That's actually a very interesting point, because no matter what you're playing on, whether it is on Xbox or PC or even phones, you can get early access, which is where you can basically pay for the game with the caveat that you know it's not complete yet.
Yeah.
All the bugs haven't been ironed out. Like, we discovered that Neverwinter Nights was available on my Android phone. My iAndroid. That's my own personal development. My Android phone can get Neverwinter Nights, but it's not perfect yet. It says in brackets, early access. Like, it's fine. But if it doesn't work as you expect it to, you can't blame us because we advertised it as such.
Yeah.
A lot of people, a lot of video game journalism websites say Anthem should be classified in the state that it's in as an early access game because it is nowhere near a finished product.
No.
Now, if they actually released it as an early access game and it got review scores under 60%, you could say, well, you know, what could we have expected? It's not finished yet. But eesh.
I did say, I don't know if I said this on the podcast, but I know I've said it to you, that Anthem in those demos, it felt like those were being beta tested, really, that they weren't just demos of a finished game like a little chapter, that they were using all those demos, those weeks and weeks of the VIP and then the general access and various early access, basically, stuff as testing grounds and using that as a way to try to get rid of other bugs and see from the feedback that they were getting if there was day one updates that they could launch at the same time as launching the game, you know? And it's a little worrying when you can see that it's not like they're hiding it. It looked super obvious that was part of what they were doing and using it over that month. So it's not a good, it's kind of a red flag.
Well, now that you have mentioned it, don't forget that Anthem did get a considerably sized day one update, which broke some things and fixed others. So the agonising launch of Anthem continues. It reminds me a lot of when GTA Online launched. I was an early adopter of Grand Theft Auto 5 on the Xbox 360. I was interested, maybe not excited, but I was interested in seeing how Grand Theft Auto would work in an online sense. And again, because so many people bought Grand Theft Auto 5, and after the month or two of launch, then they released the online component, it was not in any state to be launched. Let's put it that way. The game was incredibly unstable. The servers were ridiculously busy and or broken and or error. You had to do a stupid tutorial race thing before you could even create a character properly and actually be in the world. And unfortunately, it would either glitch out after you'd finished that race, glitch out immediately during the race, or you just couldn't even do it. And then you'd save your progress, and then it would say, oh, you haven't even done this tutorial. And you're like, yes, I have! For goodness sake, I've done this! Just let me play! It was a mess. It was ridiculous. I never went back to it properly. I dabbled in it once the servers got a bit more stable. But a lot of people enjoy playing it now. It is a game that has got many updates since it launched. The online progressive launch schedules, as they say, is a thing on these online games. They can have seasons like Fortnite. They can have big, almost like DLC chunks of updates released that can enhance gameplay or fix bugs or, unlock new areas. Will Anthem benefit from its roadmap that has been released? They have 90 days planned out for what they're going to do for it. They're going to need a lot more than Band-Aids and nails to fix this.
Yeah. One game that we both jumped on board kind of as soon as it launched.
Here, at least, in Australia.
Yes. And then deleted within a month was Pokemon Go. And that had a rough start. It wasn't officially part of the Pokemon company. That was Niantic. I mean, they stumbled across an incredible idea, with augmented reality of having Pokemon being caught in real life using maps. And it was just so buggy and frustrating in those early days that a lot of people, not just us, gave up on it early. We're like as much as we love the idea, it wasn't working. And so we just got fed up.
Yeah. The technical side wasn't that great. The content itself was not anywhere near what it is these days.
Not as engaging.
Bland. There was almost nothing to do in the game except for catch a Pokemon. And that was pretty much it. So the fact that nowadays it looks completely different.
Yeah.
But an interesting thing is, if you were to say, oh, I wonder about Pokemon Go, is that any good? And you type it into Metacritic or to GameRankings.com, it will still have its original review scores, which aren't updated, even though a game gets improvements made over the years. There's very rare occasions where a game company will re-review a game and update its score, and then that updated score gets considered into a Metacritic or a Game Rankings or any aggregate review score system. So the fact that Pokemon Go is still sitting at 67% when it's easily, I hate to say this, but it's easily my favourite mobile game. Not that I'm a mobile gamer, please don't paint me with that brush. We've been over this. But yeah, that will always have that stigma, that stain of that 67% review score, which isn't that great. But the game is nowhere near as broken or as bland as it was in 2016 when it launched.
It's come a long way, and I think it's evidence that, it can improve substantially. That you also got to acknowledge the fact that Pokemon Company is now a part of that.
Microtransactions probably didn't hurt either,
Yes.
as far as their ability to
And
fix
still probably rolling in to this day. My goodness. Even now, like when we go play and there's like a raid, just even at our local park, there'll be so many people like that will notice standing around with their phones.
Yep.
So it's still alive and well. It may not be as obnoxious as it was when it first launched, but people still pogo.
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 Pogo for life. Now, interestingly enough, a game that you would be laughed at if you said it was not successful is Fortnite. Now, everybody knows Fortnite. Every child that you see will be doing a Fortnite dance of some sort in shopping centres, train station platforms. It doesn't matter. I see them daily, and it's weirdly annoying.
You got to admit, though, if you were one of those teenagers, you'd be doing that.
It's not even teenagers these days. It's younger. But Fortnite, when it launched, was not actually intended on being a Battle Royale style game. It was a team-based cooperative horde mode, almost, if you've played a Gears of War or anything like that, where you survive against waves of AI opponents. It's still a co-op game that you build things in, but that's about as far as its identity got. And game reviewers and critics were not impressed with it, found the gameplay to be boring, found the visual style to not be exciting enough. There was a lot wrong with it. It was called Fortnite Save the World, and it was not good. And so then, with the success of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, they decided, well, people seem to like this Battle Royale business. There's 100 players on a map. The map gets smaller. Everyone has to fight to the death. You get one life, one shot of glory. I'm not going to sing an Eminem there. You only get one shot.
Well, they definitely injected some personality into it, though. You look at Fortnite now, and it looks almost nothing like the original, with quirky characters and costumes to the crazy dances that your characters and avatars can do. So in 2 years, they've managed to turn this game around from a near disaster to a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Even when the Battle Royale style was implemented, everyone thought, oh, look at this, it's just a Battlegrounds clone. That's ridiculous. No one's going to play that. Look at it. It looks childish. Whoops. Little did we know that would capture the hearts and minds of children everywhere. And Fortnite is as popular as anything has ever been in the video game landscape.
Personally, I like that it's kind of kiddish, It's refreshing to have a Battle Royale style game that is just quirky and silly and not super gory or anything like that. And if I had kids, I would be more comfortable with them playing that than other games of that style.
Correct.
So, I think they hit on gold there, really.
And this is another example of a game developer supporting the community, giving them a reason to hang around. We've had story seasons in this game where one of the environmental things will suddenly have a change, and everyone's like, oh, what does this mean? There's a giant crack in the ceiling dome. What does this mean? What's behind the ceiling dome? And then everyone gets, theories and discussions online, and then you see something happening, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's happening tonight! And then everyone jumps in to just sit around in a game that you're supposed to be fighting each other, and just have viewing parties with 100 players just standing around just watching the sky. Isn't that strange?
Another thing that I think has worked really well for Fortnite is its, cross-platform multiplayer, that people can play from phones to PCs to consoles is so refreshing and, practically unheard of prior to it.
Yeah, I complain a lot about lack of feedback, controllers, sticks, buttons when you're playing on a phone, on an iPad. But I saw a video recently of a professional Fortnite player playing on an iPad, and it blew my mind. The fact that they were just wiggling their fingers basically across the screen of the iPad and showing incredible dexterity. It was ridiculous, but people are learning to play these games, these complex third-person shooters with building aspects, menus, this, that, the other, on a flat screen. That's bonkers for my old-aged brain.
I'm still waiting for games to be, like holograms and augmented reality's taken another leap into it. I think that would be pretty cool. A discussion for another day. And finally, Final Fantasy.
Finally.
Final Fantasy 14 was released in 2010 with review scores of 50% or 50.27.
So above average then.
Not for video games.
No, certainly.
That's below average for video games.
Certainly not. Yeah, when Final Fantasy XIV Online, it's an online RPG. The second time in the main Final Fantasy series they ventured from the single-player adventure. Final Fantasy XI had that as well. Final Fantasy XIV did not do well at launch, to say the very least. Now, thankfully for them, the developers didn't just cut and run. They had a project that they'd worked on that did not live up to expectations, which is exactly where Anthem is right now. But Square Enix, whatever you want to call them, I call them Squaresoft because that's what they were before they merged with... Yeah, anyway. They decided to invest more funds into this project, whereas some people would say, well, it didn't make any money, let's move on to something that will. They decided to basically create it again from scratch and fix everything that was broken, make it more interesting, more vibrant, more exciting, make it work and make it appealing for people to come back to. And 3 years after it originally launched, Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn, now there's a title that lived up to its name, was released and blew away everybody at the fact that it was nothing like what it originally was. This is how we envisioned it, everybody, and this is how you want to enjoy it. And enjoy it they have. It is still one of the most popular MMORPGs all these years later. And the fact that it launched in such a bad state, but was ultimately successful, still gives us hope for any game that comes out. Sonic Boom, Rise of Lyric on the Wii U, there's hope for you yet. Maybe not that one, but...
I don't know if anyone is going to try to redeem that one. They might just look at it and go, no, let it... leave the bones where they lie.
Oh.
Sorry,
so yes, Anthem has not done well. Its average user review score on Metacritic is sitting at a 4.1, which may mean more to you than a critic's review, because that's made up of how many ratings? 1,800 plus at the moment.
Yes.
A lot of people have tried it. There is always stupid people arguing on the internet of saying, well, a reviewer said they played it for 30 hours, so why would it be such a bad game if they played it for that long? Surely they liked it.
No, the reviewer's job is to sit there even if they hate it.
That's a true story that I saw on the internet today.
Oh, man. Seriously, people, maybe think about what you say or write before you do it. Because, comments like that would just make you look stupid. But, yeah, it's one of those things I kind of had that gut feeling long ago when they announced it and they were saying they were going in a different direction, that it would be focusing on multiplayer and cutting out all these things that BioWare is strong in. And I think I need to remind myself more than anyone that BioWare isn't the same company it was. A lot of the people that made it great have left.
Yeah.
You know, Casey Hudson is back and they brought him back specifically for this project. But I don't know if that's enough, you know.
More than Casey Hudson work on these games.
Yeah.
And this is the sort of thing that I might just be the sort of gamer who gets comfortable in a style of game. But like Quantic Dream, David Cage's company, I don't want them to experiment with anything outside of the interactive narratives that they make because they do them well. I enjoy them for what they are. Telltale was the same before they overextended themselves and got mismanaged into oblivion. But I liked them to do that. I didn't want a third-person open-world shooter from Telltale.
No.
That's not what I wanted from them. And from BioWare, I wanted a story-driven, choice-based
RPG.
where you have interesting characters that are written to be interesting with you, talking with you, talking with each other. That all missing from Anthem. So this does make it very interesting, though. If Anthem had have succeeded right out of the gates, that could be the future of BioWare in this exclusively. But the fact that it is not, now I'm very interested to see if EA funnel more funds into Anthem to try and fix it, like some of these games that we talked about on this episode, or if they just say, okay, this was a mistake. BioWare, go back to what you were doing. We'll still make money off you doing that. It just won't be as successful as Anthem should have been. So I have no idea what's going to happen.
You can see EA's fingers, especially on the multiplayer aspects. There are so much microtransactions in this. You'd think they would learn from the backlash they've had with Star Wars and other games that have had some like heavy criticism over the past few years, but it's back and in full force in Anthem, and a lot of critics and fans alike have said that, especially with the multiplayer aspect, because that's where the focus of this game is, because there isn't as much story. It's all about your javelins and getting the upgrades and trying to move forward, and even those aren't all that exciting, and a lot of the good stuff is locked. What a shock. What a shock.
Lock, shock, and 2 smoking barrels.
So to me that's so predatory, and I know like obviously it works as a money making method because they keep doing it, and we gamers are stupid enough to keep falling for it maybe. So I wasn't wanting to rant, but it turned into a rant. I'm sorry.
You're only ranting because you're passionate about games, and specifically BioWare. But well, that's the state of Anthem as we speak. It has not done well. If it was an analogy of a race and the starter's gun went off, they were facing the wrong direction and took off. So we'll just have to wait and see. It's going to make it very interesting, like I said, to see where BioWare, EA, what they do. If they stick with this and improve it, I'm all for it. Congratulations to them for fixing a broken product. But if it can't be fixed, what will happen? What direction will BioWare go in? What direction will EA go in? That is very interesting, and I can't wait to see what happens.
We're a bit nervous, but let's be optimistic, hey?
Let's look at something far more optimistic. Let's listen to how we're going to fail our 4 in Febs right after this.
Share the love. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Gaming Lovers.
Okay, so there's like only a couple of days left of February. And we have to squeeze in 2 more games. Well, thankfully, for me anyway, mine are mostly done.
All right, period Q. How much do you have left to do? You said that you've got multiple story arcs. Do you know how many of them there are?
I haven't unlocked the true ending yet, but I believe I have like only 2 or 3 characters that I haven't done their stories. And I feel like I can fly through certain scenes now because it's starting to hit that point where they repeat sections. So that makes the process faster. Once you've done a couple, it starts to speed up the process when it comes to visual novels. So I'm feeling confident that if I give myself a day specifically for that, I can knock that out of the park.
I don't have many days left.
No, I know, but I'm just not sure how long, because with God of War, it's a big unknown, and I'm too scared to ask you or look up details of where I am as to how close I am to the ending.
Well, that's just it. Some games you don't want to be influenced by knowing how much is left, because if you know the ending's coming, sometimes it'll have not the same impact as if it just suddenly shows up and goes, surprise, plot twist, thing, big important scene, credits. And you're like, oh, no, I want more. And if you know that that's coming up, you know that it's, it can affect your influence. So I try not to tell you exactly when or how far away you are.
Yeah.
You'll have to just wait and see if you do it or not.
Yeah.
I like the intrigue.
You probably know how close I am, but you're not saying anything.
I do. I saw you playing yesterday, and I know pretty well how long it will take you to play it. But it's up to you.
I'm trying to tell by your face. Are you smug that I'm not going to finish?
Cover my face. It'll be up to you to manage your time correctly.
Okay, mister. So how about you?
Speaking of managing time incorrectly. Well, I have had the plan because I chose a portable game for one of my 4 in Feb, Pokemon
Yes.
Moon on the Nintendo 3DS. I've been playing that progressively since the very start of the month.
Mm-hmm.
There are 4 main islands in the game. It's basically you break it up into 4 islands. That's 1 a week. I'm halfway through the 4th island as we speak. So,
Your plans been working?
theoretically, that should be fine.
Yes.
That should be fine.
Yes. What about your 4th game?
The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, I have begun
How big is that game again?
today. It is estimated to be somewhere, estimations vary, obviously. This is
Yeah.
a game where you have a whole open world.
Uh-huh.
You get different gadgets, weapons, gizmos, gadgets. I said
Aplenty.
gadgets twice, but that's how many gadgets you get.
All right, so get to the point. How long is it going to take?
I'm just saying that you explore the world and then you find a new item so you can go to different areas in the same world. There's a lot of backtracking involved.
Yes.
A lot of covering your own steps. People say it can take as short as 12 hours, which I think is a bit ambitious.
Uh-huh.
Anywhere up to 30, depending on how good you are at games and how well you pay attention. So, if we're looking at 30,
Oh, good
I
luck,
might
mister.
be absolutely
You're in trouble.
screwed.
You're in trouble.
But I did actually find out that there is a speedrunning glitch where you can start the game and finish it within 5 minutes by glitching through a wall and ending up where the final
That
boss room
doesn't
is.
count.
No?
No.
I will see the credits roll, though.
Hey, I had fake credits roll in Kirby Star Allies. That was not the ending. That was just a falsy ending. So if that doesn't count, then neither does yours.
All right. Well, I can pretty much guarantee 3 out of my 4 into Feb will be done by the close of business, February 28th. We needed this to be a leap year day.
know,
Where can I
right?
put in a form to make this a
I
leap
can't
year?
wait till next year. We get that whole extra day, and we'll probably squander it.
Depending on how hard I hit Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, I might be able to do it. It's going to be tight if I can do it.
Keep it tight.
Realistically, I think I might be hitting a 3 out of 4 this year, which is still an improvement. It's still an improvement on 0 out of 4 like last year, but we'll have to wait and see.
Time will tell. We'll find out next week on the Gaming Lovers podcast.
And then the chains are off and we can play whatever we want. Isn't it nice and
the
refreshing?
chains from the blades of chaos shall be removed.
Well, until next time, I'm Brendo,
I've been Jem.
and you're going to be a year older by the next time we talk on this
Oh,
podcast.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Make sure you send a happy birthday tweet to my dear wife.
Or message on Facebook, for those who don't have Twitter.
Yeah, well, just celebrate her. I demand it.
I don't. It's all good. Thanks for joining us here on the Gaming Lovers podcast. We'll catch you next time.
And until next time, Chowski.
Bye, Anara.
Thanks for listening to the Gaming Lovers podcast. For more episodes or to watch some live stream gaming, visit thegaminglovers.com.